Hello and welcome. It's Frances here. I'm actually doing a live stream because I've done this video a few times and it hasn't uploaded and I'm getting a bit jacked of it. So I'm going to try this manner or method as well. The reason for this video is that I've recently had someone ask me about what books I'd recommend when it comes to getting to know Morrigan. Morrigan is the Phantom Queen from Irish mythology, and she is rather a complex figure in that she is a title for a number of goddesses that are very similar. She is part of a trine of goddesses, and she's also a single goddess on her own. So there are a number of resources that may help you work with her depending on which area you want to. I think the first protocol would be knowing a little bit about Celtic mythology or the Celtic peoples, how they came about, and that might give a little bit of a leeway into understanding their gods and goddesses. Now, my study into Celtic mythology is about 20 years old now, from the early 1990s. And some of these sources stem from them. So one of the first books I'd recommend is this one by Miranda Green, Celtic Goddesses, Warriors, Virgins and Mothers. I don't know if it's still available. I think it still is. This goes through not only those three aspects of the goddess according to the Celts, but also a little bit of a background as to how they came to these associations or groupings of them, and also explains from a more probably academic point of view, like women in warfare. The Celts weren't like probably the Romans or the Greeks, who like their women seen and not heard, shoved in the house, and that was about it. They were a bit more like the Vikings. They didn't really differentiate between genders when it came to battle and warfare. If you were an able-bodied person and you could swing a sword, you were more than welcome on the battlefield regardless of your gender. So that's the first book, Celtic Goddesses, Warriors, Virgins and Mothers. And the virgin aspect of it is probably in relation to the non-married, non-attached woman or young woman. Second book, probably a bit dated, is actually a translation, Women of the Celts by Jean Markale. Again, it sort of sets up the foundations to the whole Celtic society and how women were depicted within that society. So that sheds a little bit of light into the various gods and goddesses, in particular the more, warrior-like goddesses from the Celtic mythologies. Excuse me, a bit embarrassing when you've got doing a live and you've got a croaky voice. The next book has a bit of a personal attachment because this was the tutor for my Celtic studies, and she was also the tour leader for my first trip to the UK, and that is Lynne Sinclair-Wood and her book, Creating Form from the Mist, Wisdom of Women in Celtic Myth and Culture. And again, Lynne sort of spans both the Celtic culture and the role women played in there and how they perceived women, as well as the mythology. And though she talks about the whole culture and a whole range of goddesses in this book, she does have a section on the warrior women, which includes the Morrigan, Marcale, Maeve, Scathach, and also Capall and his initiation with Scathach, and a voice of the warrior woman in the modern world. So I'm quite sure this book's still available through Capall Bann. Next combination, a little bit sort of to the side, it's not really about the Morrigan itself, but it is aligning with very Celtic goddesses as a whole, drawing on probably the Mabinogion, which is Welsh, and a bit of poetic license, is this book, Queen of the Night. And it actually relates to the Celtic moon goddesses. Now, the Morrigan, though a battle goddess, is sort of an all-reaching goddess, in my personal opinion. So I quite like this book. It's sort of like a journey through the 13 moons, and she talks about the different goddesses throughout the year and how to get in touch with them. So if working with a goddess or identifying with deity, working with deity, building up that relationship with deity is something you're not all that familiar with, and you're a little bit sort of swayed towards the Celtic background, well, then this book could be one to look out for. The next two books are probably my go-tos when it comes to actually information about the Morrigan as a deity. The first one is The Guises of the Morrigan by David Rankin and Sorita d'Este. Is a personal fave. Again, I do know both the authors of the book. David was actually one of my second high priests. So this book I really like, because like their other books that they've put out, they don't just focus on the Morrigan, they also focus on other goddesses that sort of depict similar qualities, and sort of gives you a little bit of food for thought if you want to further your research and investigations. They talk about the Banshee, they talk about there's Morgan and Faye is mentioned in here. They talk about various other washers of the Ford, because the Morrigan is one of her titles, Washer of the Ford. They talk about, there's the Kali gets mentioned in here. They talk about her not only through her association as the initiator, the warrior, the sort of the tester of the heroes, but also she is the lover of the Dagna, queen of the battle, her various guises of Morgan, Morrigan, Markale, Babe, and Neem, her ongoing relationship with Capall, his downfall, Babe's cattle, thieving story, all of that's covered in this book. So though it's only, say, around about 200 pages, there's a lot of information in here. So Avalonia Books have put this out. It's a number of years old now, just checking, 2005. So I do recommend, it's probably one of my favorite go-to books. Another one is an anthology. That's, again, a disclaimer. I've got a poem in there called By Blood, Bone and Blade. So this is an American outfit that actually put out a lot of anthologies. And I like basically all the books that they put out, because you're getting not only information from a historical point of view, but also personal associations, personal interpretations. This book's full of sort of analysing the myths. There's stories, there's people's personal perceptions of the Morrigan, working with the Morrigan, who she is. There's ideas for vacations, there's artwork, there's a whole kit and caboodle in there, including my poem, Call of the Morrigan, which I might share, but I do want to show one more thing, and it's in my own book coming out next year, well, this year actually now, Encountering the Dark Goddess. Though the Morrigan doesn't get mentioned in person, she gets depicted in here. Now, this is, and you can't see it, Sora Bescalis, who's done all the artwork for the internal side of this book. This is her depiction of the Morrigan, and that is taken from or inspired by her reading of Sorita's explanation or interpretation of the Morrigan in this book. So, and there's also another book I forgot to mention. I haven't actually looked or read this book yet. It has been recommended to me. I did get it when I was about to write my book, but it's never happened. It's called Celtic Lore and Spellcraft of the Dark Goddess Invoking the Morrigan by Stephanie Woodfield. Now, it was recommended to me. I think I actually recommended it to someone else at the time who was also getting interested in the Morrigan. And again, it's got a whole lot of exercises and information all the way through. I can't give a personal opinion of this book because I haven't actually read it, but from other sources, it does come highly recommended. So from Blood, Bone and Blade, I thought I would share my poem Call of the Morrigan, and apologies out front for my bad pronunciation of Gaelic. Shape-shifting trine, daughter of the great Arnus, fading in and out of dreams with bloody desires and lust, Morrigu of the ancient land, whom the Dagda loved, prophesizing heroes and battles, that all would be lost. Queen of the phantoms, choser of the slain, stirring blood to a frenzy, Naman was her name. The raven of the battlefield with her death-defying call. When brave Catholic circles, death comes to all. Banshee of the shadow realms, with terrifying screams, hunting Irish heroes by appearing in their dreams. Kingmaker, soul destroyer, washer of the ford, determining the fates of those she chose to die by the sword. Mistress of the cauldron, goddess of severity, fortune teller, prophetess, maker of all kings. Maka, the red-eared heifer, keeper of the land, bringer of the feminine with her blackthorn rod in hand. Oh, the mighty Morrigan, the great phantom queen, creating circles of life and death, the seen and the unseen. Shape-shifting hooded crow, the powers of 3 times 3, protecting all who call to her in their hour of need. So that's my poem that's found in Blood, Bone and Blade. Morrigan, the Guises of the Morrigan by David Rankin and Sorita Diesti. And if I had to choose another book, probably this one, Celtic Goddesses by Miranda. Okay. So a little bit of food for thought. If you have any other recommendations, please list them below. I'll put titles and all the other information about all the books I've mentioned here at the end. And any other comments, listen below. Until then, blessings.